Welcome back, students. Today we shall be discussing another very important topic, that is the plastids. The plastids are membrane-bound cell organelles. They are found in euglenoids and plants. So we see that these very cell organelles are found. They are particular to euglenoids and plant cells, and they are membrane-bound cell organelles. Now, they can be easily seen under microscope as comparatively when compared with other cell organelles, they are of large size as compared with other cell organelles. They can be easily seen under the microscope. Now they contain different pigments. They contain different pigments, and as such they impart different colors to the different parts of the plants. Now, depending upon the type of pigment in the plastids are of following types. For example, if we discuss about the types of the plastids, you will see there is a type of plastid known as, very common type of plastid found in the plants, that's known as the chloroplast. It contains the pigment known as chlorophyll. So it contains a pigment known as the chlorophyll, which imparts green color, which imparts green color to the plant parts, particularly leaves. Then there's another category of plastids which we call as chromoplasts. These chromoplasts contain pigments known as carotenoid pigments. Carotenoid pigments. They contain pigments known as carotenoid pigments or carotenoids. They are fat soluble pigments, carotenoids. Example is carotene and xanthophyll. Carotene and xanthophyll. And they impart different colors in plant parts like their red, orange, and yellow color. Okay, so we say that the chromoplasts contain fat soluble pigments known as carotenoid pigments like the carotene and xanthophyll, and they impart different colors like red, orange, and yellow to the different plant parts. Then there's another category which we call as the leucoplasts. Leucoplasts. These plastids or plastids do not contain any type of the pigment, and as such they are colorless. They don't have any pigment, and as such they don't impart any color. Then they have storage functions. They have different functions that they store many materials. Like the first category among them is amyloplasts. The first category among them is amyloplasts, which stores starch, as in case of potato. In case of potato, you will see there are plastids known as amyloplasts. These plastids are plastids, they store the starch. Then there's another category known as ileoplasts. These plastids, they store oil and fat molecules. So leucoplasts, again I will say, they are colorless, they don't have any pigment, but they have storage functions like the amyloplasts, which store starch, as in case of potato, and ileoplasts, which store oil and fat. Then there's another category which we call as the aleuroplasts. Aleuroplasts, which store proteins. Okay, so this is briefly about what are plastids and what are the different types of the plastids. Hope that you have understood this very content. Now we shall move on towards understanding the structure of plastid, and in that very system we shall be dealing particularly with the structure of the chloroplast as a representation of a plastid over here. So if you say chloroplast structure, if we go into the detailed structure of the chloroplast, you will see, before we deal with the structure of the chloroplast, we'll make some quick points over here. That is, they are variously shaped. The chloroplasts are variously shaped. They can have different shapes, like the discoidal shape. They can have discoidal shape. They can have a ribbon-like shape. They can have a spherical shape, and they can have many other different types of the shapes. Now, with respect to the number of the chloroplasts, you will see in Chlamydomonas, which is a green alga, there is a single chloroplast. However, in the mesophyll cells of leaves, there can be 20 to 40 chloroplasts in the mesophyll cells of leaves. So this is a brief and general information about the shapes and the number of the chloroplasts found in different types of the plants. Let's move forward and try to understand the detailed structure of a chloroplast. Now, when you begin to discuss the structure, you have to see that it has two membranes. The chloroplast has two membranes. This is the outer one, or the outer membrane, and this is the inner membrane. So again, I will repeat that it's a double membrane bound cell organelle. Then this compartment enclosed by the inner membrane is known as the stroma. This is the stroma. Then inside the stroma, you will see there are flat sac-like structures like these, and these are known as the thylakoids. These thylakoids contain the chlorophyll molecules. Okay, these are thylakoids, and they have a very narrow space enclosed, which is known as lumen, and it contains the chlorophyll. Then you will see these thylakoids pile up like the stakes of the coin. They pile up like the stakes of the coin, and they form structures which you call as the granum. This is a granum, and the plural term for this is grana. These are the grana. This is a single granum. Then you will see that the neighboring grana are connected to one another by structures known as stroma lamellae. These are stroma lamellae which connect the neighboring grana with one another. Okay, so these are this one grana, this another granum, this third one, this fourth one. There are many grana, and they are connected with one another by stroma lamellae. Now, this fluid contains many enzymes which are involved in carbohydrate and many other material synthesis. There are many enzymes in the stroma which are involved in carbohydrate, fat and protein metabolism and synthesis, particularly carbohydrate and protein metabolism and synthesis. Then there is a molecule that's a double-stranded circular DNA molecule over here. This is a closed circular DNA molecule present over here, and there are also present ribosomes in the stroma, and the ribosomes are of the 70S type. I will again repeat over here, like that in the mitochondria has a setup within the stroma by which the mitochondria can synthesize some of its proteins which are required for normal functioning of the mitochondria. But again, I will repeat that mitochondria is not able to synthesize all of its proteins. In the same way, the chloroplast contains some of the enzymes and some of the what we call as proteins. It is able to synthesize some of the proteins, as it has a machinery for synthesis of some of the proteins in the form of its DNA and in the form of its ribosomes and all that. But it cannot synthesize all the proteins which are required inside the chloroplast. So it is autonomous, but it is a semi autonomous cell organelle like that of the mitochondria. So like that of the mitochondria, it is a semi-autonomous cell organelle. So this is a discussion regarding the structure and the different types of the plastids. But you will note one point, that the limit of information is particularly for those of the 11th class students.